What happens when a duchess walks onto morning television expecting a friendly chat, but ends up in the most explosive confrontation ever witnessed on breakfast TV? In just 33 seconds, one comment would turn a simple interview into absolute chaos and send shockwaves through the studio. This is the story of how Meghan Markle's appearance on Good Morning Britain went from cordial to catastrophic in record time. And it all started with what seemed like an innocent question from host Susanna Reid. The morning began like any other at the Good Morning Britain studios. The crew was buzzing with excitement. A duchess was coming on the show. Meghan Markle had agreed to sit down for what was supposed to be a light, promotional interview. The lighting was perfect. The set looked immaculate. And Susanna Reid, ever the professional, had prepared thoughtful questions designed to make her guest feel comfortable. When Meghan walked onto the set, she was smiling. The cameras were rolling. The audience was watching. Susanna stood up to greet her, extending her hand warmly. They shook hands. They exchanged pleasantries. Everything seemed perfectly fine. "Thank you so much for joining us this morning," Susanna said, her voice warm and welcoming. "We're absolutely delighted to have you here." Meghan settled into her chair, adjusting her outfit, smoothing down her skirt. She smiled at the camera. She smiled at Susanna, but there was something in her expression, something that didn't quite reach her eyes. A tension, a guardedness, like she was ready for battle before the first question had even been asked. Susanna began with something simple, something easy. A softball question about Meghan's recent charity work. It was the kind of question that should have resulted in a pleasant, heartwarming answer, the kind of thing that makes for good morning television. But Meghan's response was clipped. Short, almost dismissive. "I think that's something everyone should be doing," she said, her tone cool. "I don't need to be praised for basic human decency." Susanna blinked. That wasn't quite the answer she'd expected. But she's a professional. She's been doing this for years. She knows how to handle difficult guests. She smiled and moved on to the next question. Of course, Susanna said smoothly. "Now, you've been quite vocal about certain issues in the media. Can you tell us a bit about that?" And this is where things started to shift. Meghan leaned forward. Her expression changed, hardened. "Vocal?" she repeated, her voice rising slightly. "Is that what we're calling it when someone defends themselves against lies? Vocal?" Susanna maintained her composure. She kept her smile professional, friendly, non-threatening. "I simply meant that you've been open about your experiences," Susanna clarified gently. "Our viewers are interested in hearing your perspective." "Your viewers," Meghan said, and there was something sharp in the way she said it, something cutting. "Your viewers have been fed a steady diet of tabloid nonsense about me for years. And now you want me to sit here and pretend like this is just a nice, normal conversation?" The studio had gone quiet. The crew members glanced at each other. This wasn't going according to plan. This wasn't the friendly interview they'd all expected. Susanna took a breath. She remained calm. This is what she does. This is what she's trained for. "I understand you've had difficult experiences with the press," Susanna said, her voice steady and kind. "That's exactly why we wanted to give you this platform, to share your side, to speak directly to people without any filter." Meghan laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant laugh. It was bitter, cold. "A platform," she said mockingly. "You think this is a platform? This is just another opportunity for you to get ratings off my name, off my struggles. Don't pretend this is about giving me a voice." Susanna's professionalism never wavered. If she was hurt by these accusations, she didn't show it. She sat there, poised, gracious, trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. "I can assure you, that's not our intention at all," Susanna said. "We genuinely want to hear from you, to understand your experiences. Our audience values authenticity, and that's what we're hoping for today." Authenticity? Meghan's voice was getting louder now. You want authenticity? Fine. Let's be authentic. Let's talk about how your show, this very show, has run countless segments criticizing me, analyzing my body language, questioning my motives, making assumptions about my character. And now you sit there, smiling at me, pretending like none of that happened. The accusation hung in the air, heavy, uncomfortable. Susanna didn't flinch. She didn't get defensive. Instead, she responded with grace. I think it's fair to say that public figures are often subject to commentary and analysis, Susanna said carefully. That comes with the territory. But that doesn't mean we can't have a respectful conversation here today. I'm not here to attack you. I'm here to listen. But Meghan wasn't interested in listening. She was on a roll now. Her eyes were flashing. Her hands were gesturing wildly. Respectful? She spat. There's nothing respectful about the way I've been treated. By the media. By this country. By people like you who sit in your comfortable chairs and judge people you don't even know. People like you. Those words landed like a slap. Susanna's expression flickered. Just for a moment. But she recovered instantly. I'm sorry you feel that way, Susanna said, and her voice was genuine. Sincere. But I don't think it's fair to paint everyone with the same brush. I've always tried to approach my work with integrity and fairness. Fairness, Meghan repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Is it fair that I can't go anywhere without being photographed? Is it fair that every single thing I do is scrutinized? Is it fair that I'm held to a different standard than everyone else? Susanna leaned forward slightly, her voice gentle but firm. Many people in the public eye face similar challenges, she said, and while I absolutely sympathize with how difficult that must be, I think our viewers would appreciate hearing about how you've coped with those challenges, how you've grown, what you've learned. Wrong thing to say. Completely wrong thing to say. Meghan's face turned red. Actually, red. You could see the anger rising up her neck, into her cheeks. Many people face similar challenges, she shouted. Actually, shouted, on live television. Don't you dare compare my situation to anyone else's. You have no idea what I've been through. None. You sit here in your perfect little studio with your perfect little life, and you think you can relate to me? The crew was frozen. Nobody knew what to do. This had gone so far beyond uncomfortable. This was unprecedented. Susanna, to her absolute credit, remained calm. Her voice was steady, measured. I'm not trying to compare, she said softly. I'm simply trying to have a conversation. And I'm finding it quite difficult when you seem determined to be hostile. Hostile. That word. That single word. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Meghan stood up. Actually stood up from her chair. The microphone pack attached to her waist nearly yanked out. A crew member rushed forward to adjust it, but Meghan waved them away. Hostile, she hissed. I'm hostile. I come here agreeing to do you a favor by appearing on your little show, and you call me hostile? Susanna remained seated. Calm. Her hands were folded in her lap. She looked up at Meghan with an expression that was both patient and slightly concerned. Please sit down, Susanna said gently. Let's continue this conversation like adults. Like adults. Another match to the flame. Don't patronize me, Meghan snapped. Don't you dare patronize me. I am a grown woman. I am a duchess. I don't need you telling me how to behave. The invocation of her title, right there, on live television, as if it somehow gave her the right to behave this way, as if it placed her above the normal rules of civil conversation. Susanna's expression changed, just slightly. There was a firmness there now, a steel underneath the kindness. With all due respect, Susanna said, and her voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. Your title doesn't give you the right to be rude to people who who are simply trying to do their jobs. The studio went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Nobody breathed. Meghan stared at Susanna. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. Susanna didn't back down. She sat there looking up at Meghan, completely composed. "I've been nothing but courteous to you since you arrived," Susanna said. "I've asked you fair questions. I've given you space to share your perspective. And you've responded with accusations and insults. I understand you're frustrated. I understand you've had negative experiences. But that doesn't justify taking it out on me or my team." Meghan's hands were shaking. Actually shaking. She pointed a finger at Susanna. "You think you're so perfect, don't you?" she said, her voice trembling with rage. "You think you're above it all. Well, let me tell you something. You're part of the problem. You and every other journalist who makes a living tearing people down." Susanna stood up now. Slowly. Deliberately. She looked Meghan directly in the eye. "I'm not going to engage with personal attacks," she said quietly. "If you'd like to have a genuine conversation, I'm happy to continue. If not, I think it might be best if we end this interview." The ultimatum. Clear, simple, respectful, but firm. Meghan's eyes widened. She clearly hadn't expected this. She'd expected Susanna to back down, to apologize, to placate her. "Are you threatening me?" Meghan asked, her voice shrill now. "Not at all," Susanna replied calmly. "I'm simply setting a boundary. I won't be spoken to this way. Not by you. Not by anyone." The power shift was palpable. Suddenly, Meghan wasn't in control anymore. Susanna, through her calm professionalism, had taken back the room. Meghan looked around wildly, at the cameras, at the crew, as if searching for allies, finding none. "This is ridiculous," she said. "Absolutely ridiculous. I agreed to come here as a courtesy, and this is how I'm treated." Susanna tilted her head slightly. "You agreed to come here for an interview," she said. "An interview involves questions and answers, a dialogue. What's happening right now isn't an interview. It's a tantrum. A tantrum." She actually said it, on live television, to a duchess. The collective gasp from the crew was audible. Meghan's face went from red to purple. Her hands clenched into fists. "How dare you?" she whispered. Then louder. "How dare you speak to me like that?" Susanna didn't raise her voice. Didn't need to. "I speak to everyone the same way," she said simply. "With respect, until they demonstrate they don't deserve it. You came here with an agenda. You wanted to be offended. You wanted to play the victim. And when I didn't give you the confrontation you were looking for, you created one anyway." The truth of those words hung in the air. Undeniable. Clear. Meghan was sputtering now. Actually sputtering. Unable to form coherent words. I can't believe." Susanna waited. Patient. Letting Meghan dig her own hole deeper. Finally, Meghan found her voice again. "I want to speak to your producer," she demanded. "Right now. I want to file a formal complaint about your behavior." A producer did step forward. A woman in her 40s, clipboard in hand. She looked between Meghan and Susanna. "Miss Markle," the producer said carefully, "I've been watching from the gallery. Susanna has conducted herself with complete professionalism. If anyone has behaved inappropriately, I'm afraid it's been you." Meghan whirled on the producer. "What?" she shrieked. "Are you serious? Did you not hear the things she said to me?" The producer nodded calmly. "I heard everything," she said. "I heard Susanna ask you polite questions. I heard you respond with hostility and accusations. I heard Susanna try repeatedly to de-escalate the situation. And I heard you continue to escalate it." Meghan looked like she might actually explode. Her whole body was rigid with fury. "This is a setup," she said. This whole thing is a setup. You brought me here to humiliate me." Susanna shook her head slowly. "Nobody brought you here to humiliate you," she said. "You were invited here for a friendly interview. You chose to turn it into something else entirely." "I chose?" Meghan's voice was reaching new pitches now. "I chose? You people have been attacking me for years, and you think I chose this?" Susanna's patience was remarkable, truly remarkable. "Whatever grievances you have with the media as a whole," she said, "they have nothing to do with me or this interview. You can't hold me personally responsible for every article ever written about you. That's not fair. That's not reasonable." But reason had left the building. Meghan was beyond reason now. "I don't have to stand here and listen to this," she announced. "I don't have to take this abuse." Abuse. She actually called it abuse. Susanna's eyebrows raised. "Nobody is abusing you," she said firmly. "Nobody has raised their voice at you. Nobody has insulted you. The only person who has been abusive in this exchange is you." That was it. That was the final straw. Meghan ripped off her microphone. The wire tangled. She yanked at it, nearly breaking the equipment. A crew member rushed forward to help, but she pushed past them. "I'm done," she announced to the room. "I'm absolutely done with this, with all of you." She started walking toward the exit. Susanna called after her, her voice still calm. "Ms. Markle, we still have 12 minutes left in the segment." Meghan spun around. "I don't care about your segment," she spat. "I don't care about your show. I don't care about any of this. You're all terrible people, and I was a fool to come here." She pointed at Susanna specifically. "And you," she said venomously, "you're the worst of them all, sitting there with your fake smile and your fake concern. You don't care about me. You don't care about anyone. You just care about your ratings and your paycheck." Susanna stood there, absorbing the attack with remarkable dignity. "I'm sorry you feel that way," she said quietly. "I genuinely am. I hope you find peace with whatever you're dealing with." The kindness in those words seemed to enrage Meghan even further. "Don't," she said, her voice shaking. "Don't you dare pretend to care about me. Don't you dare." And with that, she stormed off the set. Actually stormed off. In the middle of a live broadcast. You could hear her heels clicking on the floor. You could hear her muttering angrily to herself. You could hear a door slam somewhere off camera. The studio was in shock. Complete shock. The crew stood frozen. The cameras were still rolling. Nobody knew what to do. Susanna turned to face the camera. She took a breath, composed herself, and when she spoke, her voice was steady. "Well," she said, with the tiniest hint of a rueful smile, "I think it's safe to say that didn't go as planned." There was nervous laughter from some crew members. Susanna sat back down at the desk, straightened her papers, looked directly into the camera. "I want to apologize to our viewers," she said sincerely. "We invited our guest here today, hoping to have a meaningful conversation. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I tried my best to maintain a respectful dialogue, but sometimes, despite our best efforts, things don't work out the way we hope." She paused, collected her thoughts. "I think it's important to note," she continued, "that having a platform and having a voice comes with responsibility. It means engaging in good faith. It means being willing to have difficult conversations without resorting to personal attacks. It means treating others with the same respect you expect for yourself." Her words were measured, fair, not vindictive or cruel. "I harbor no ill will toward our guest," Susanna said. "I hope she finds what she's looking for. But I also hope this serves as a reminder that respect is a two-way street, that titles and status don't exempt anyone from basic civility." She looked down at her notes, then back up at the camera. "We're going to take a short break," she said. "When we come back, we'll be discussing the importance of mental health support for young people. Please stay with us." The camera cut away. The red light went off. And Susanna finally let out a long breath. Her shoulders sagged slightly. The producer approached her, concern on her face. "Are you okay?" the producer asked. Susanna nodded slowly. "I'm fine," she said. "That was intense, but I'm fine." "You handled it perfectly," the producer said. "Absolutely perfectly. You never lost your cool. You never stooped to her level. You were professional the entire time." Susanna gave a small smile. "I just tried to be respectful," she said, "even when it wasn't being returned. That's all any of us can do, really." The makeup artist came over to do touch-ups. Susanna sat still, letting her work. You could see the adrenaline starting to wear off, the reality of what had just happened sinking in. "That was wild," a cameraman said, shaking his head. "I've worked on this show for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like that." "Neither have I," Susanna admitted, "and hopefully I never will again." During the break, social media had exploded. The clip was everywhere. Everyone was talking about it. The consensus was overwhelmingly in Susanna's favor. People were praising her composure, her professionalism, her refusal to engage with the hostility. Comments poured in, thousands of them. Susanna handled that with such grace. "Cannot believe how entitled and rude that guest was. This is what professionalism looks like. Susanna deserves a raise for keeping her cool like that." When the show came back from break, Susanna transitioned seamlessly into the next segment, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just been verbally attacked on live television. She interviewed a charity worker about youth mental health programs. She was engaged, thoughtful, asking excellent questions, completely present. That's the mark of a true professional. The ability to compartmentalize, to not let personal upsets affect the job at hand. Meanwhile, somewhere outside the studio, Meghan was presumably still fuming, still convinced she'd been wronged, still unable to see how her own behavior had created the very situation she was complaining about. It's a fascinating study in contrast. On one side, you had Susanna, calm, professional, respectful even in the face of disrespect, setting boundaries without being aggressive, standing her ground without being cruel. On the other side, you had Meghan, defensive, hostile, looking for offense around every corner, unable to engage in good faith, treating perceived slights as personal attacks. The interview that was supposed to be a friendly chat had turned into a masterclass in how not to conduct yourself in public. And the person who came out looking bad wasn't the host who'd been accused of everything under the sun. It was the guest who'd made those accusations. Because here's the thing about playing the victim. It only works if people believe you're actually being victimized. And when you walk into a room swinging at shadows. When you respond to kindness with hostility. When you mistake professionalism for persecution. People see through it. They saw through it that day. Millions of viewers watched the exchange, and overwhelmingly, they sided with Susanna. Because she'd done nothing wrong. She'd asked fair questions. She'd remained calm and courteous. She'd tried repeatedly to de-escalate. And when those efforts failed, when it became clear that her guest was determined to be offended no matter what, she'd set a simple boundary. Be respectful, or we're done. That's not being mean. That's not being unfair. That's self-respect. The rest of the show went smoothly. Susanna interviewed several other guests, discussed various topics, was her usual charming, intelligent self. And when the cameras finally stopped rolling for the day, she thanked her crew, praised them for their professionalism during a difficult situation. "You all handled that beautifully," she told them. "I know it was uncomfortable. I know it was unexpected. But you stayed calm and did your jobs perfectly. Thank you." That's leadership. That's grace under pressure. As Susanna left the studio that day, she could hold her head high. She'd done nothing wrong. She'd maintained her integrity. She'd refused to compromise her standards, even when faced with someone determined to paint her as the villain. And the viewers knew it. The internet knew it. The evidence was right there, recorded for posterity. Anyone could watch the exchange and see exactly what happened. There was no ambiguity. No, he said, she said. Just clear footage of one person trying to have a civil conversation and another person refusing to allow it. It was a moment that would be replayed countless times, analyzed, discussed, used as an example in journalism classes about how to handle difficult interviews, about maintaining composure under pressure, about setting boundaries respectfully, but firmly. Susanna Reid had faced a hurricane and remained standing, unbowed, unbroken, professional to the very end. That's the real story here. Not the dramatics, not the shouting, not the storming off. The real story is about a woman who refused to be bullied, who refused to compromise her standards, who showed the world what true professionalism looks like, even in the most challenging circumstances. And that's a lesson worth remembering.